In this video, we cover a significant amount of XRP. With charts displaying numerous breakout possibilities and TA aligning, we will discuss the current state of Bitcoin. According to the TA analysts, we are about to get our next push-up. When we break through 74,000 in Bitcoin, it will signal to us that the bull run has begun. Since I believe we are close friends, let's dive right into Bitcoin now. Please take a seat, unwind, and enjoy. Ethereum is currently down to 2,417, up 86% in the last 24 hours to $6,279. Both USDT and USDC closed 2% higher than the previous day. Both USDT and USDC are closing at their respective dollar pegs, while XRP closes at the previous significant figure of 589, with a mean leaning towards 587. We've already mentioned in passing. The $2 trillion, 1119 billion cryptocurrency market cap has dropped 11% in just 24 hours. I'm investigating this NZs. So, Mr. 589, is this our second meeting? Are you aware that you made a mistake? That's crazy. Talking about 589 about 6 years ago, and it just appears like the XRP of a magnet to 589, only we can move that decimal. Look. If we shift the decimal point to the right, it doesn't indicate greed. $589. If you're interested in keeping us moving, I'm willing to offer an XRP of $589. Offer me $58 XRP, even if there are 2 spots available. I won't whine about it, and I know you won't either. However, how will digital currencies issued by central banks function when the coin is reset? Telegram. Speaking of watching this video, all of us are aware of how technology is changing in the digital sphere and how 95% of central banks worldwide are investigating, developing, or conducting research on the use of digital currencies issued by central banks. We've also noticed that China is leading the way in this area, and Saudi Arabia has recently emerged. Bring Project and Bridge with you. What is your stance on the role of digital currencies issued by central banks in the reset, a topic you have heavily emphasized over the years? You must comprehend the driving force. The goal is to identify a mechanism. Numerous discussions have taken place over how many nations will function without the US dollar system. There has been discussion of BRICS as currency, which I think is feasible but will take time to develop. Meanwhile, we are using a much more straightforward method. If you haven't heard about the Bridge project, you mentioned it now. For the past 3 to 4 years, China, Thailand, and the United Arab Emirates have been conducting a pilot program. Each of these nations has developed a digital currency exclusively for cross-border trade between their central banks. As you mentioned, Saudi Arabia and other countries are interested in participating in this project. In my opinion, the BRICS will ultimately find their way to any of the participating countries. We use the 11 currently in place and the ones that will follow, who wish to be outside of the US dollar system, along with the criticisms of this, because there are undoubtedly in the West, you'll see people pooping. The idea that this will work, you know how. The concept came from Jim Rickards, who provided me with the answer. Why would you want to be holding Indian rupees? You know what to do with them if you face a foreign deficit. Moreover, I'm uncertain if you've noticed this, nations are forging numerous bilateral trade agreements using solely their local currencies. It is the current trend. It is how they are attempting to avoid being part of the US dollar system. Let us assume that there are 2 nations. When 2 nations engage in mutual trade, a trade imbalance arises at the end of the period. How can we resolve this trade imbalance to avoid a financial crisis? Given that you can settle gold with money you don't need in bilateral trade, I believe it's no coincidence that central banks outside of the West are hoarding gold at an accelerating pace. It's a fairly straightforward formula. It's all Forex, and it's simple to do. Transactions between central banks will occur, and you can collect them here. You settle quarterly, that is, every 6 months, but you can also settle trade deficits using your gold holdings, and that's where I believe we're headed. Eventually, I believe we'll see an alternative currency called Al-Alter, which could be a brick unit. In my opinion, a substitute currency is fascinating and valuable. Telegraph published this appearance CBDC will arrive. It's unclear how they will be used in this new financial system, but as time goes on, possibly as early as next year, and regulations take effect, we might receive a better explanation or learn more about Bitcoin. Given that Bitcoin is valued at $60,000, it likely has more space. The primary factors for risk assessment in the U.S. economy, according to the researcher, are expected to increase as worries about a recession persist. Interestingly, the value of Bitcoin is readily apparent. Bitcoin is far more expansive. We're not clear yet, we're still in Chop City, and there are 100,000 more on the way. He asserts that Bitcoin purchased him last week and that, according to Bob Lucas's daily cycles theory, we anticipate that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates next week. On Friday, cryptocurrencies saw a surge. Bitcoin experienced a 1% decline to 576 on Friday, but it has since recovered. This article claims that depending on the assets, there may be more petrol left in the tank for Bitcoin's surge. I will now provide you with a daily cycle examination chart. Bob is annoyed. Let's simply examine and observe it. Charts aren't something we need to look at, stare at, or feel compelled to do. Pretend we understand Bitcoin's future direction charts. It's really easy. Everyone, including me, expects Bitcoin to break $100,000 by the end of the year. When the breakout does occur, it will happen quickly. Bitcoin's advance normally occurs within a 6 to 10 month time frame, but we are getting close to that point. And incensed that this isn't just going to go from 60-61-62 to 60-63, rather, it's going to push the range of 60-64-66. After stocks break, we're going to target the $70 to $774,000 level. This is all going to happen in phases. Once we breach 74,000, let's celebrate with my fellow bears. Guys can stay in hibernation, you don't have to. The next 6 to 10 months will be life-changing, and these markets will be parabolic. You'll probably see a lot of people posting negative charts online. They'll start to flip and say, "I told you so," but you know what they didn't do because there are a lot of people on Twitter who is asserting that the bull market has concluded, that we are currently in a bear market, and that you should liquidate your investments, and then these substandard memes attempt to pump and shove you. Don't be fooled by these garbage memes, as the market is very close. It ends close to Eager Crypto. View his white flame chart. I appreciate this chart. He states, for better clarity, we revisited the January 20th post of this year. What topics does he cover in his next post? 75 cents is arguably the most important price point. I have been advocating for the 75-cent zone for some time now. I firmly believe that we need to close within the weekly time frame. When discussing XRP, we say we'll be in dollars in an hour, but Bitcoin must close. Even Maximus Prime was released. According to his chart, he is correct when he says, "Man, we are so bleeding close." $32 well, not exactly, but still 75 cents. He is correct. Around 74.50 cents the first zone to pass through is 75 cents. After that, the dollar and its all-time high of $190 in 2020 come into play. Once we breach that, we reach the largest resistance region. For this channel, we'll refer to it as $3. This represents a 70-year resistance region at $2.80, which was the all-time high in 2017 and which we haven't broken since. It will be extremely challenging to break that resistance region, but once we do, we will enter the price range. Finding out what is the process of price discovery. Since there is no data available, no one can make any informed decisions. The absence of maps prevents anyone from predicting its future direction. When an asset breaks through its previous all-time high and reaches levels we have never seen before, price discovery is such an exciting and thrilling period because nobody knows where to look. When it comes to my XRP, the possibilities are boundless. As you are aware, I am now a very cautious person. My reasoning for this is that should we breach the 75-cent mark and witness $7 to $10 trillion in cryptocurrency, the target, where the parabolic blow-up top leads us, we'll provide more information if we go a little farther. Early on, we managed to surpass the 75-cent mark.